Senior researcher 6427 adjusted their optical sensors as they reviewed the assignment notification glowing on their data screen. The crystalline architecture of the Stellar Science Division's Research Center cast prismatic patterns across their workspace, but for once, the beautiful light show failed to capture their attention. Standard biological classification and documentation, 6427 murmured to themselves, their voice resonating through their communication crystals. Subject species, humans of Sol 3. They had expected something more challenging for their 500th research project. The assignment seemed simple enough. Document and classify the biological functions of this newly discovered species for the standardized species database. The Stellar Science Division had given them one orbital cycle to complete the task, a duration humans would call a month. More than sufficient time for what should be routine work. 6427 initiated their research protocols, connecting to the preliminary data streams collected by the automated observation satellites orbiting Sol 3. Their first surprise came immediately. The scanning equipment was reporting error messages, claiming internal contradictions in the biological readings. Computer, verify scan integrity, 6427 commanded, their crystalline appendages tapping against their workstation. The response was instantaneous. Scan integrity at 99.99%. No equipment malfunction detected. 6427's outer shell rippled with interest, their species equivalent of raising an eyebrow. They focused their attention on a particular data stream showing human cellular activity. According to the readings, a human test subject had suffered damage to their external protective layer, what humans called skin, and the cellular response was unlike anything in the database. Computer, display comparison analysis with standard cellular repair processes. The holographic display filled with two side-by-side animations. On the left, the standard model showed damaged cells being replaced by identical new cells. On the right, the human cells were doing something entirely different. They weren't just replacing damaged tissue. They were creating stronger, more resilient cells in the damaged area. Fascinating, 6427 whispered, their outer shell now shimmering with excitement. Computer, expand analysis to include all recorded instances of human tissue repair. The data cascade that followed caused 6427 to call in their research assistant, Lux 982. The younger researchers' crystalline form sparkled as they processed the information. Senior researcher, these readings, they can't be correct, Lux 982 said, their voice chiming with disbelief. According to this, humans not only repair damage but often become stronger at the point of injury. It defies basic biological principles. 6427 gestured toward another data stream. Look at this recovery pattern. The human juvenile suffered a complete break in their support structure, their bones. Within their standard orbital cycle, the break not only healed but showed increased density at the repair site. But that would mean Lux 982 trailed off, their crystal structure pulsing with the implications. Indeed, 6427 confirmed. These humans don't just heal, they adapt and improve from damage. Computer, begin full spectrum analysis of human biological processes. I want everything. Cellular activity, organ functions, neural patterns, and especially their repair mechanisms. As the computer began its comprehensive scan, 6427 composed a message to the division chief. This wouldn't be a standard classification project after all. They would need more time, more resources, and possibly a team of specialists. Something unprecedented was happening in the ordinary-looking star system humans called home. Lux 982, prepare the advanced scanning equipment. 6427 instructed, their excitement barely contained. I have a feeling we're about to rewrite several chapters in the Galactic Biological Classification Guide. The younger researcher hurried to comply, their crystal form glowing with shared enthusiasm. Meanwhile, ZIX-427 studied the continuing data stream, particularly fascinated by a human cellular process called inflammation, a response that seemed simultaneously destructive and reconstructive. This was supposed to be their 500th routine classification project. Instead, it was becoming clear that nothing about human biology was routine. As the computer continued its analysis, one thing became certain. The Stellar Science Division had no idea what they were about to discover about these remarkable beings from Sol 3. Senior researcher, you need to see this immediately. Lux 982's usually melodic tones rang with urgency through the research center's crystalline chambers. Their form flickered between shades of azure and violet, a clear sign of agitation among their species. ZIX-427 glided away from their analysis station, where they had been reviewing human cellular repair mechanisms. What have you found? The younger researcher's crystals pulsed rapidly. According to our observations, humans not only survive regular exposure to dihydrogen monoxide, they require it to live. Impossible. ZIX-427 responded, their outer shell dimming with skepticism. Dihydrogen monoxide is a universal solvent. It breaks down organic compounds in nearly every known species. Look at the data yourself, Lux 982 insisted, projecting a holographic display of their findings. They call it water, and an adult human requires approximately 3 liters per daily cycle for optimal function. ZIX-427 studied the readings, their crystalline structure vibrating with increasing intensity. The data was undeniable. Humans weren't just surviving contact with the dangerous compound. They were composed of it. Computer, display human biological composition analysis, ZIX-427 commanded. The holographic display expanded, showing detailed percentages. Both researchers stared in astonishment as the numbers materialized before them. 60%. Lux 982 chimed in disbelief. Their bodies are 60% dihydrogen monoxide. Correction, the computer interjected. Some human organs contain up to 90% dihydrogen monoxide composition. ZIX-427 began recording their observations. These beings have evolved not just to survive in the presence of a universal solvent, but to incorporate it into their basic biological functions. The implications are staggering. A new alert flashed across their display, causing both researchers to pause. The computer had completed its analysis of human consumption patterns. Senior researcher, the computer's neutral tones announced, humans also deliberately seek out and consume various forms of dihydrogen monoxide at different temperatures, including near its thermal phase transition point. Clarify, ZIX-427 requested. Humans regularly consume dihydrogen monoxide in its near-gaseous state, at temperatures that would cause severe damage to most known species' intake systems. They call this hot drinks. Lux 982's crystal structure flickered rapidly. They drink boiling solvent for pleasure. Indeed, the computer confirmed, and they have developed thousands of variations, adding different organic compounds to create what they term beverages. ZIX-427 was about to comment when another alert demanded their attention. Their outer shell pulsed with what could only be described as shocked amusement as they processed the new information. It seems we've only scratched the surface, they announced. Humans also willingly consume a substance called ethanol, a neural disruptor, for recreational purposes. A neural disruptor for recreation. Lux 982's voice climbed several octaves. How do they survive? Not only do they survive, ZIX-427 responded, reviewing the data, but they've developed entire cultural practices around its consumption. They call it drinking and brewing. The two researchers spent the next several hours documenting the myriad ways humans had transformed what should be lethal substances into sources of nourishment and enjoyment. Each new discovery seemed more improbable than the last. We need to update the classification parameters, ZIX-427 finally declared. Traditional biological categories simply don't apply here. These humans have evolved in ways that defy our basic understanding of biochemistry. Lux 982 began compiling their findings for the daily report to the Stellar Science Division. Should we mention that they sometimes add carbonation to their beverages, making them deliberately unstable for entertainment? Include everything. Zix 427 instructed, their tone carrying a note of resignation. Though I doubt anyone will believe us without extensive supporting evidence. As they prepared their report, a new thought occurred to Zix 427. If humans treated universal solvents and neural disruptors as refreshments, what other supposedly deadly substances had they adapted to? They had a feeling they were only beginning to understand just how unique these beings truly were. Computer, they commanded, begin analysis of human dietary preferences. Let's see what other surprises their consumption habits hold. The computer acknowledged the command, and both researchers settled in for what promised to be another fascinating day of rewriting everything they thought they knew about biological possibilities. The research center's specimen analysis chamber hummed with activity as Zix 427 and Lux 982 studied their latest findings. The holographic displays surrounding them showed time-lapse recordings of human tissue samples, each telling a story that seemed to defy conventional biology. Play the bone healing sequence again, Zix 427 requested, their crystalline form shifting closer to the central display. Focus on the cellular activity at the fracture site. The hologram flickered, showing a damaged human bone sample. As the time-lapse progressed, both researchers watched in fascination as specialized cells swarmed the injury site. Observe how the osteoblasts behave, Zix 427 noted, their voice resonating with excitement. They're not just replacing damaged tissue, they're reinforcing it. Lux 982's crystal structure pulsed with understanding. The new bone formation. It's denser than the original structure. Computer, compare density readings of pre-injury and post-healing bone samples. Analysis complete, the computer responded. Post-healing bone density shows a 15% increase at the repair site compared to undamaged sections. It's as if the injury triggered an upgrade protocol. Lux 982 marveled. But that's not supposed to be possible. Biological repairs should restore, not enhance. Zix 427 activated another display, this one showing muscle tissue samples. The pattern repeats here as well. When human muscle fibers repair after damage, they don't just heal, they adapt. Computer, display the exercise stress response data. The hologram shifted, revealing microscopic tears in muscle fibers and the subsequent healing process. The time-lapse showed the tissue not only repairing itself, but becoming visibly more robust. Fascinating, Zix 427 murmured. They deliberately induce minor damage to their muscle tissue through exercise, triggering this enhancement response. It's a controlled evolution process. A sudden alert drew their attention to another display. The computer had completed its analysis of human skin healing patterns. The data streaming across the screen caused both researchers to pause in astonishment. Their external protective layer, Lux 982 began, their tone chiming with disbelief. It creates a temporary patch called a scab while completely rebuilding the damaged area underneath. And look at the scar tissue formation. It's often stronger than the original skin. Zix 427 began documenting these observations, their outer shell shimmering with scientific excitement. We're witnessing something unprecedented. Most species evolved to prevent damage. Humans evolved to utilize it. They don't just survive injuries, they integrate them into their development process. The computer interrupted with another finding. Analysis of human immune system responses shows similar adaptive properties. After surviving a pathogen, their defense mechanisms retain information about the threat, creating enhanced countermeasures for future encounters. They learn from diseases. Lux 982 asked, their crystal structure flickering rapidly. That's not healing. That's programming. They're programming their own biological responses. ZX-427 moved to their primary research station, beginning to compose their daily update to the Stellar Science Division. We need to revise our understanding of biological adaptation. These humans have developed a symbiotic relationship with damage itself. Every injury, every illness, every stress becomes an opportunity for enhancement. A new alert caught their attention. The computer had finished comparing human healing rates with those of other known species. The results were illuminating. Look at these recovery timelines, ZX-427 pointed out. Injuries that would be permanently debilitating in other species are often temporary setbacks for humans. They don't just heal, they return to full functionality, sometimes with improved capabilities. Lux 982 began preparing their next set of experiments. Should we proceed with the tissue regeneration studies? Yes, ZX-427 confirmed. But first, add a note to our report about human medical practices. They've developed techniques to accelerate their natural healing abilities even further. They're not content with their already remarkable recovery capabilities. They're actively working to enhance them. As they continued their research, both scientists couldn't help but wonder what other surprises human biology had in store. If their healing abilities were this extraordinary, what other impossible features might they discover? Computer, ZX-427 commanded, begin analysis of human neural recovery patterns. Let's see how their remarkable healing capabilities extend to their central processing organ. The computer acknowledged the request, and the research chamber filled with new data streams, each promising more fascinating discoveries about these incredible beings from Sol 3. The holographic displays in the research center's main chamber flickered with unusual patterns, waves of neural activity recorded from sleeping human subjects. ZX-427 had been studying these readings for what humans would call hours, their crystalline form remaining perfectly still except for the occasional pulse of puzzlement. Computer, verify these sleep cycle readings again, ZX-427 requested, their voice carrying a note of disbelief. Focus on the rapid eye movement phase. Verification complete, the computer responded. Data accuracy confirmed at 99.98%. Humans enter a paralyzed state while their minds generate complex neural patterns similar to conscious activity. Lux 982 entered the chamber, their crystal structure brightening at the sight of the neural wave displays. More sleep research, senior researcher. Have you determined why they require this daily shutdown period? That's just it. ZX-427 responded, gesturing at the data streams. It's not a shutdown at all. Their minds remain remarkably active during sleep, particularly during these REM phases. They experience something they call dreams, vivid mental experiences while unconscious. The younger researcher moved closer to the displays, studying the complex wave patterns. But why would an evolved species deliberately enter a vulnerable state of unconsciousness? It seems counterintuitive to survival. ZX-427's outer shell shimmered with excitement. That's what I thought at first. But look at this data on memory consolidation during sleep cycles. They activated another hologram, showing neural pathways being strengthened and reorganized during various sleep stages. Their brains use this time to process information and solve problems. Lux 982 asked, their tone chiming with surprise. Indeed, they can even influence this problem-solving process by focusing on specific issues before sleep. Some of their greatest scientific discoveries came from dreams. ZX-427 pulled up historical records. Their periodic table of elements, the structure of carbon atoms, numerous mathematical solutions, all conceived during dream states. A new alert drew their attention. The computer had completed its analysis of sleep deprivation studies. The results caused both researchers' crystal structures to pulse with astonishment. They can temporarily override their sleep requirement through sheer determination. Lux 982 noted, scanning the data. Look at these examples. humans remaining conscious and functional for days despite their body's demands for sleep. HFY began documenting these findings. Yes, though with fascinating consequences. Their mental processing becomes impaired, yet they can still perform complex tasks. Some humans regularly disrupt their sleep patterns for work or study, adapting to reduced sleep cycles. But the most remarkable aspect, they continued, activating another display, is how they use this seemingly vulnerable state. Computer showed the creativity correlation studies. The hologram shifted, revealing comparisons between dream activity and creative problem-solving abilities. The data streams showed clear connections between dream states and enhanced creative thinking. Their unconscious minds continue working while their bodies recover, Lux 982 observed. It's like running a secondary processing system during maintenance periods. ZX427's crystal structure brightened with understanding. Exactly. They've evolved to use their rest period for multiple purposes: physical recovery, memory consolidation, problem solving, and creative processing. It's incredibly efficient. The computer interrupted with a new finding about lucid dreaming, the ability some humans had to maintain awareness during dreams and even influence them. Both researchers spent several moments processing this information. They can consciously interact with their unconscious processes, Lux 982 asked, their voice rising in pitch. The implications for neural plasticity are extraordinary. Add this to our growing list of unique human capabilities, ZX427 instructed. Their relationship with consciousness itself seems to be adaptable. They can move between different states of awareness, using each for specific purposes. As they continued analyzing the sleep data, a new question emerged. Computer, ZX427 commanded, begin correlation analysis between sleep patterns and human emotional processing. Let's see how this dream state connects to their psychological resilience. The research chamber filled with new data streams as both scientists contemplated the remarkable species that had evolved to turn unconsciousness into a tool for growth and innovation. What other surprises would they discover about these fascinating beings from Sol 3? The research center's environmental chamber had been reconfigured to simulate a human dining establishment. Holographic displays showed molecular structures of various compounds, while sampling devices analyzed the chemical composition of human foods. ZX427 and Lux 982 were currently focused on a particular subset of human cuisine that defied explanation. Computer, analyze the chemical compound capsaicin again, ZX427 requested, their crystalline form vibrating with intensity. Confirm its biological effects on human nerve receptors. The computer's display illuminated with new data streams. Capsaicin bonds to pain receptors, specifically the TRPV1 ion channel, creating a burning sensation without causing actual thermal damage. And humans deliberately seek this out. Lux 982 asked, their crystal structure flickering with confusion. They intentionally trigger their pain response system for enjoyment. Not only that, ZX427 responded, pulling up new data, but they've cultivated thousands of varieties of plants specifically to produce stronger versions of these compounds. Look at this scale they developed. The hologram shifted to display the Scoville scale, showing the relative potency of different spicy compounds. Both researchers studied the progression with growing amazement. The range is extraordinary, Lux 982 noted, their voice chiming with disbelief. From mild irritants to compounds that could incapacitate most species, and humans compete to consume the strongest versions. ZX427's outer shell pulsed with scientific excitement. Yes, but here's the most fascinating part. Computer, display the adaptation response data. New holograms materialized, showing how human tolerance to spicy compounds increased with repeated exposure. The neural response patterns revealed something unprecedented. They're not just enduring the sensation, ZX427 explained. They're adapting to it. Their bodies learn to process these compounds more efficiently, allowing them to consume increasingly potent versions. It's like they're training their pain receptors. A sudden alert drew their attention. The computer had completed its analysis of endorphin release patterns associated with spicy food consumption. Remarkable, Lux 982 chimed, reviewing the new data. The pain response triggers their pleasure centers. They've evolved to find enjoyment in mild chemical warfare. And it's not just capsaicin, Zix 427 added, bringing up more chemical structures. Look at these other compounds they seek out: piperine in black pepper, allyl isothiocyanate in wasabi, cinnamaldehyde in cinnamon. Each one triggers different sensory responses, and humans have incorporated them all into their cuisine. The computer interrupted with another discovery, this time about human taste perception development. Both researchers paused to absorb the implications. Their taste preferences change throughout their lives. Lux 982 asked, studying the new data. Foods they once found unpalatable become enjoyable through repeated exposure. Their entire sensory system seems to be adaptable, Zix 427 observed, documenting these findings. They can literally train their bodies to enjoy new flavors and sensations. It's as if their perception of pain and pleasure is negotiable. A new series of readings caught their attention, showing how different cultures had developed varying tolerance levels for specific compounds. The global spread of spicy cuisines revealed another aspect of human adaptability. They share these challenging foods with each other. Lux 982 noted, their crystal structure brightening with understanding. It's become a form of cultural exchange, introducing new groups to increasingly intense sensory experiences. Zix 427 began updating their research notes. Every time we think we understand the limits of human adaptation, they surprise us. They don't just overcome environmental challenges, they turn them into sources of pleasure and social bonding. The computer signaled the completion of another analysis, this time focusing on the evolutionary advantages of spice tolerance. The data suggested connections to food preservation, antimicrobial properties, and enhanced immune responses. Computer, Zix 427 commanded, begin analysis of other voluntary human stress responses. If they seek out and adapt to capsaicin, what other challenging stimuli do they purposefully expose themselves to? As new data streams filled the chamber, both researchers contemplated the species that had somehow evolved to find enjoyment in pain signals. What other sensory mysteries would they discover about these remarkable beings from Sol 3? The environmental simulation chamber hummed as it cycled through various climate conditions. Holographic displays tracked temperature variations while monitoring the remarkable ways human bodies responded to each change. Zix 427 and Lux 982 watched in fascination as the data streams revealed yet another unique aspect of human biology. Computer, confirm the temperature range humans can survive in, Zix 427 requested, their crystalline form shifting to better observe the readings. Verified temperature range for human survival spans from -40 to +50 degrees Celsius with appropriate behavioral adaptations, the computer responded. Short-term exposure limits extend even further. Lux 982's crystal structure pulsed with disbelief. That's a 90-degree range. How do they maintain homeostasis across such extreme variations? Watch this, Zix 427 instructed, activating a detailed simulation of human thermoregulation. Computer, demonstrate the sweating process. A hologram zoomed in to show microscopic sweat glands activating, releasing carefully regulated amounts of fluid onto the skin's surface. Both researchers observed the elegant simplicity of evaporative cooling in action. They secrete water to cool themselves. Lux 982 chimed in amazement. Using phase transition energy to regulate temperature, it's brilliantly efficient. And that's just one mechanism, Zix 427 added, bringing up additional data. Look at their circulatory system's response. Blood vessels dilate and constrict to manage heat distribution. They can redirect warm blood flow to their core organs in cold conditions or to their skin surface for cooling. A new alert drew their attention to historical data about human endurance activities. The computer had completed its analysis of something humans called persistence hunting. "This can't be correct," Lux 982 said, their voice rising in pitch. They pursued prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, in high-temperature conditions. Zix 427's outer shell shimmered with excitement. Their combination of efficient cooling, bipedal locomotion, and endurance capabilities made it possible. While other creatures had to stop and pant to cool down, humans could continue pursuing their prey while maintaining temperature regulation through sweating. The computer interrupted with new data about human adaptation to extreme environments. Both researchers paused to absorb the implications of humans living in everything from Arctic regions to equatorial zones. "Look at these high-altitude adaptations," Zix 427 noted, examining the data. "Some human populations have developed increased hemoglobin levels and modified breathing patterns to survive in low-oxygen environments. They've colonized areas that should be uninhabitable. And these aquatic adaptations," Lux 982 added, reviewing another data stream. "Some humans can dive for extended periods, triggering something called the mammalian dive reflex. Their bodies automatically optimize oxygen use underwater." Zix 427 began documenting these findings. Their environmental adaptability extends beyond mere survival. They've developed cultural practices and technologies to thrive in almost any condition their planet offers. A new analysis caught their attention, showing how humans used controlled temperature exposure for both health and recreation. The data about saunas and ice baths caused both researchers' crystal structures to flicker rapidly. They deliberately stressed their temperature regulation systems. Lux 982 asked incredulously. Like their response to spicy compounds, they're intentionally challenging their biological limits. "Exactly," Zix 427 confirmed. "And look at the resulting adaptations. Repeated exposure leads to improved temperature tolerance and cardiovascular health. They're basically training their homeostatic systems." The computer completed another analysis, this time focusing on human athletic performance in various environmental conditions. The data showed how humans could maintain physical activity in situations that would incapacitate most species. "Computer," Zix 427 commanded, "begin comprehensive analysis of human environmental adaptations across all known habitable zones on Sol 3. Include both physiological and behavioral modifications." As new data streams filled the chamber, both researchers contemplated the species that had evolved to be so remarkably adaptable. Their temperature regulation abilities were just the beginning. Humans seemed capable of modifying themselves to survive almost anywhere. "Add a note to our report," Zix 427 instructed. "These beings don't just adapt to their environment. They adapt their environment to themselves while simultaneously evolving to face new challenges. It's a dual adaptation strategy we've never observed before." The main research chamber had transformed into a sea of holographic neural networks, each display showing different aspects of human brain activity. Zix 427 and Lux 982 moved through the galaxy of synaptic connections, their crystalline forms reflecting the countless points of light surrounding them. "Computer, display the neural pathway formation in learning processes," Zix 427 requested, their voice resonating with barely contained excitement. "Focus on skill acquisition patterns." The holograms shifted, showing the creation and strengthening of neural connections as humans learn new abilities. The speed and efficiency of the process left both researchers in stunned silence. "Their neural pathways aren't fixed," Lux 982 observed, their crystal structure pulsing with realization. "They're constantly creating new connections, strengthening useful ones, and pruning inefficient ones." "Exactly," Zix 427 responded, manipulating the display to show different examples. "Look at this musician's brain structure compared to a non-musician. The areas devoted to audio processing and fine motor control have physically expanded through practice. The computer interrupted with new data about human language acquisition. Both researchers paused to absorb the implications of humans learning multiple communication systems throughout their lives. They can restructure their neural networks to process different language patterns. Lux 982 asked, their tone chiming with amazement. Even as adults. Not just languages, Zix 427 added, bringing up more data streams. Computer, show the adaptation patterns for human spatial processing in zero-gravity environments. The holographic display revealed how human brains rapidly rewired themselves to handle new environmental conditions. The neural plasticity exhibited was unprecedented in their database of species studies. Look at these space adaptation syndrome readings, Zix 427 pointed out. Their brains literally rebuild their sense of orientation when gravity disappears. They can adapt to conditions they never evolved to experience. A new alert drew their attention to data about human recovery from neural damage. The computer had compiled cases of brain injury rehabilitation that defied conventional understanding. Their neural networks can reroute around damaged areas. Lux 982's crystal structure flickered rapidly. Other regions take over lost functions. It's called neuroplasticity, Zix 427 explained, documenting the findings. Their brains remain malleable throughout their lives. They can recover from injuries that should be permanently debilitating, learn new skills at any age, and adapt to radical changes in their environment. The computer completed another analysis, this time focusing on human emotional and psychological adaptation. The data showed remarkable resilience in the face of trauma and stress. They don't just adapt physically, Lux 982 noted, studying the new information. Their mental and emotional responses evolve with experience. They can literally rewire their stress responses. Zix 427's outer shell pulsed with intense interest. And look at these meditation studies. They can consciously influence their neural activity, altering their brain structure through focused mental practices. New data streams appeared, showing how humans use technology to enhance their natural adaptability. The research team observed examples of humans learning to control prosthetic limbs through direct neural interfaces. Their adaptability extends to artificial additions, Zix 427 marveled. They can integrate mechanical systems into their neural networks as if they were natural appendages. The computer signaled the completion of its analysis on human cognitive enhancement techniques. Both researchers studied the various ways humans deliberately pushed their neural capabilities beyond natural limitations. Computer, Zix 427 commanded, compile all data on human neural adaptation capabilities, include learning processes, recovery patterns, and environmental adaptations. We need to document the full scope of their neuroplasticity. As the research chamber filled with new data streams, both scientists contemplated the implications of their discoveries. These humans hadn't just evolved remarkable physical adaptability. Their very consciousness was designed to grow and change. Add this to our report, Zix 427 instructed. Human adaptability appears to be recursive. Their ability to adapt extends to their adaptation mechanisms themselves, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of enhancement that we've never observed in any other species. The grand presentation chamber of the Stellar Science Division sparkled with anticipation. Crystalline beings of various forms had gathered to hear the findings from what had started as a routine biological classification project. Zix 427 stood before them, their outer shell gleaming with a mixture of excitement and nervous energy. Esteemed colleagues, Zix 427 began, their voice resonating through the chamber. What we discovered about human biology challenges everything we thought we knew about biological evolution and adaptation. The holographic displays activated, showing a comprehensive overview of their research findings. Each data stream told part of a story that seemed more incredible with every revelation. These beings from Sol 3 don't just adapt to their environment. ZX-427 continued. They actively seek out challenges to trigger adaptation responses. Their entire biology appears to be built around the principle of continuous improvement. Lux 982, now promoted to associate researcher, activated the first detailed display. Consider their healing mechanism. Injuries that should be devastating become opportunities for enhancement. Their bones grow stronger at breakpoints, their muscles rebuild more efficiently after damage, and their immune system creates libraries of defense strategies. Murmurs rippled through the audience as ZX-427 brought up the next set of data. Their consumption habits defy conventional biological wisdom. They require liquid water for survival, deliberately ingest neural disruptors for recreation, and actively seek out compounds that trigger pain responses, adapting to enjoy increasingly intense sensations. The chamber filled with shimmering lights as the assembled scientists processed this information. ZX-427 continued, bringing up new displays showing human sleep patterns and neural plasticity. Their consciousness itself operates in ways we've never observed. They enter periodic states of controlled unconsciousness where their minds process information and solve problems. Their neural networks remain plastic throughout their lives, allowing them to learn, adapt, and recover from injuries that should be permanent. A senior council member's crystal structure pulsed with a questioning tone. Are you suggesting these humans have evolved beyond normal biological constraints? Not beyond them. ZX-427 responded, activating the environmental adaptation displays. They've evolved to use those constraints as tools for improvement. Their temperature regulation system allows them to survive in extreme environments. Their endurance capabilities let them persist where other species must rest. They don't just survive challenges, they transform them into advantages. Lux 982 stepped forward, presenting the final datasets. Most remarkably, their adaptability is comprehensive and recursive. Their bodies learn from stress, their minds reshape themselves through experience, and their very adaptation mechanisms evolve to become more efficient. The chamber fell silent as ZX-427 prepared to deliver their final conclusion. Based on our extensive research, we propose a new biological classification for humans: adaptive recursive sapiens. They represent a new paradigm of evolution, one where the capacity for change itself becomes the primary survival strategy. The presentation concluded with a stunning visual representation of human adaptation patterns, showing how each challenge they faced led to new capabilities and opportunities for growth. Our recommendation, ZX-427 announced, is to establish a permanent research division dedicated to studying human biology. Their unique characteristics offer insights that could revolutionize our understanding of life itself. The senior council members' crystal structures pulsed with approval as they processed a proposal. One of them stepped forward, their form glowing with authority. Researcher ZX-427, your findings are unprecedented. We approve the establishment of the Human Biology Research Division, with you as its director. Your first task will be to investigate potential applications of human adaptive mechanisms to benefit other species. As the chamber filled with the chiming sounds of scientific excitement, ZX-427 and Lux 982 shared a moment of satisfaction. What had begun as a simple classification project had led to the discovery of a species that redefined their understanding of biological possibilities. Computer, ZX-427 commanded one final time. Begin preliminary analysis for the new research division. Focus on the question, what other amazing discoveries about human biology await us?